To a very special Facebook Live here on Balls.ie. It's Mick McCarthy here alongside Mark Farrelly. It's Ireland-Wales tonight, so Mark's dressed in his usual match day garb. We will be talking about that match, but we are also here to celebrate the massive Euromillions jackpot tonight, which is estimated at €70 million.
7-0.
It's a lot of money. And to do that, we want to pick our numbers for the draw this evening, so we had to draft in the only person who might know what's going to happen, the person with the direct line himself, the Pope.
Exactly.
Brent Pope.
Yeah.
Brent, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
Very good. I look forward to tonight.
I am looking forward to tonight. Actually, the first game, I'm not on the panel tonight, but for about the first time in I think 20 years, I'll be able to sit up and have a beer, and have a steak and watch the match. And I'm hoping for. Well, I'm predicting. I've been pretty good on the predictions this year. Actually, I've been predicting an Irish win by 8 points. So if you're close to the bookies.
Right, okay.
Blame me.
Okay, well there we go, an early prediction in there. So it still is a bit weird to have a game on a Friday night. We'll get to that and we'll talk about it. But I do want to get to these numbers. It's again €70 million Euromillions draw tonight. It's a lot of money. We need your help. We need 7 numbers. We're going to also get in touch in the comments and let us know. We're going to talk about the most important numbers in Irish rugby, according to yourself. But we want you to get in touch as well and let us know what you think, what they are. Mark will be looking after the comments.
And by the way, if we pick the numbers and it's right and somebody wins 70 million, what do we get out of it?
See, I actually think this is quite dangerous because if we're putting out these numbers here and there is sort of a clairvoyant element to it, then if too many people do it, it's going to seriously cut into that 70 million.
They might only get 7 million.
If everyone in Ireland if everyone in Ireland played it, it's still a good few million each, though. So.
That's a nice egalitarian view, Mark. I like it. Yeah, but
so make sure to comment because I will be reading the comments, and at the end we'll be picking our last number based off the Facebook reader.
Exactly. So you have a very, very important part to play in this. So we need to pick out one of those numbers. But Brent, you're going to get us kicked off with the first 6. What's your first number?
First number, either 40. It's the number of points Ireland scored against the All Blacks in Chicago. So it was a good or a bad day for me. I was over there. The crack was great. Yeah. Well, it was good actually. I was because they should have won a couple of years before that 19 when they were leading and they lost in the last minute. So I was actually delighted for them. And you know what? I was kind of proud of both nations, of being a part of both nations, because I thought the New Zealanders over there. New Zealanders be criticised a bit sometimes for being a bit over serious with their rugby and that, but they were very gracious in defeat, and Ireland were the better team on that day. I don't know that Ireland will score another 40 points against the All Blacks in maybe another 100 years, but it was a fantastic day.
I don't know.
But I know they had played sensationally well. So I'm sort of, it's a love-hate thing, but I start the first number as 40 as congratulating the Irish team on that particular day.
Yeah, that's as you said, it's a 5 tries, huge score for Ireland, and we needed it. I was thinking that if you were mean-spirited, you could have gone for like 28, which is the amount of time, or 29, the amount of times it took us to beat New Zealand.
Can I change that number?
No, we're sticking with 40. We're sticking with 40.
Don't care about that's history. That's history. They're beating them. The monkeys off the back.
Exactly.
It'll happen again.
Yeah. We're on an 0-1 run since, but
it'll happen again.
Okay, so the next number you're going to pick is one that is probably the most synonymous with rugby union, but why have you gone for number 10?
Well, I've gone for number 10 because I think we'll all remember back, a bit like the All Blacks. I mean, despite playing well and winning a number of triple crowns over the years and going close, the number of Grand Slams that Ireland have won have been very few and far between, and it was that image, I think, of Ronan O'Gara. We thought the game was lost. Remember, 17-15, Stephen Jones stepped up, got the one just before. Ronan O'Gara had one more chance and he nailed it, but it was just a fantastic occasion. And I think Wales had one more chance then, didn't they? I think Paddy Wallace come offside. Something would have been ever immortalised for the wrong reason. But
image that would stay with us forever.
I felt sorry. When I thought he's just come on and replaced, he's given away a penalty, the Grand Slam. But it was Ronan O'Gara, I think, that day that sort of epitomised the Irish spirit. And I could just always see him running back with the fists clenched. And so, while I could say 15, 17, I'm going to go with 10, Ronan O'Gara for that number.
Okay, we can't argue with that.
Just also, fans, make sure to comment. We want your suggestions for numbers, rugby related preferably, but if no, maybe there's a completely different reason to why you want us to pick this number. But we will be leaving one number open to the fans, so make sure to comment. A few people are in the comments already. Just delighted to see someone was asking, see Gavin Cooney asking, are there trousers to match the suit jacket? Yes, there are. I can confirm.
Numbers related, though.
But get in with your numbers. And Jared Garvey is asking, who will Ireland's main player be tonight? But who will we get to that in a bit? You have a couple of interesting suggestions, Brent.
Of who they'll be, well, I think I think the axis is really good in 9. Murray and Sexton up there with the best in the world as a combination. Henshaw again. If you start to look at Irish players that are world class, you've Gary Ringrose, young, but that's a nice little unit developing the back row. It'd be interesting to see the battle between. I think Wales have got it wrong. I think selecting 2 open sides and Tubrick and Warburton. If you're playing that sort of way, New Zealand could get away with Australia, for a while. Pocock and these guys. I just don't think Wales are playing that type of game. So I think Ireland will have too much grunt and brute force up front. I think Wales also don't really have a line out. You take out Luke Charteris on the bench, you put those 3 smaller back rows and you don't have a back of the line out option. So I think that'll be one I lost up front. I think that Ireland have too many guns. So I think the key matchup, the key players will probably be the back row. Stander, Hislop and of course Shawnee O'Brien will probably do the damage.
Yeah, and Peter O'Mahony there as well to come in.
Or not. Because, if you remember back to 2011, the World Cup, Gatlin, that they all looked after O'Brien and these guys pretty well that day, chopped tackled them, so that'll be their plan. I just think that Ireland have moved on. I think that'll be the key areas where it's won or lost.
Okay, let's get back to the numbers. We've had 40 and 10 so far. The next number we're looking at, you've already mentioned as the number of points that we're going to beat Wales by tonight, but I don't think that's why you've gone for number 8.
No, I've gone for the number that I played, the position I played back in the 1920s, just after the Depression years when I was playing rugby. No, I played 6, 7 and 8, and I started my career as an open side flanker at number 7, playing against the likes of Michael Jones. I then moved to 6 and played, but most of my rugby was played at number 8, and playing against and with the likes of Buck Shelford and Zinzambrook and these guys were great. I think that was my best position because I wasn't very good. In those days, you had to be able to jump in the line out, and that was my weakness. I wasn't a particularly good line out jumper. I had very small calves. I looked like a carrot. If you hit me on the top of the head, I'd get on the ground about a foot. But probably prefer number 8.
Who's your favourite number 8 as a matter of interest in either now or even in the past?
Well, it's always good. Zinzambrook, you'd have marvelled about his overall skills, and I was lucky enough to play against him. He actually gave him his, well, in a sense, I gave him his break because I pulled out of the World Cup squad in '87 through injuries, and Zinny came in and then became one of the all-time greats of
there's a claim to
the
fame.
game. It was just kind of an injury at the wrong time for me. Buck Shelford was another one, extremely powerful. Of modern players, Kieran Reid.
All New Zealanders so far,
all New Zealand. Because I think that they produced that kind of iconic number 8. I think if it's hard to look outside of New Zealand for that sort of power player who had sort of dynamism as well. And I'm trying to think of other. There'd have been a lot of the French would have been Hardy. You could go to I suppose Delalio or something like that from the English point of view. I think he was a good player. You have a few South Africans, but I think. Loose forwards usually, not just saying it, but loose forwards you generally go to the Southern Hemisphere for. If you were picking your best ever loose forward trio, it's probably going to be a Zinzambrook or Michael Jones, these types of players. That's just the way it is. It's changing now. It's changing,
Yeah. Just from an Irish point of view, very, very briefly, because we have to move off this, but obviously Anthony Foley's death last year had a huge impact on rugby, I think, in the country, and there's that iconic image of the player standing up to the haka in Chicago as the 8 and all. I just thought that I don't know how you felt about it, but the way the rugby community kind of came together last November was just like I actually couldn't believe
I've never seen anything like it,
Yeah.
and I don't think this country will ever see anything like that again. I think because of the esteem he was held and because he was loyal to Munster, not just that, because he was a rugby man, because he passed away far too soon age-wise. I think the outpouring of love and emotion for that in Ireland was it was amazing to see it. And I mean, not only that, for it to be in France, for it to be New Zealand, for the even the Maoris come over, they laid the jersey out. I think it was just a mark of respect for a guy that just loved rugby. And I think it was wonderful. It was wonderful seeing sport.
Yeah, Noggy Naughton has actually been on in the comments about picking number 8 in honour of Anthony Foley. So I think number 8 is definitely.
No, it could easily, absolutely. I mean, it'd be a lovely number because Anthony. It was his first club game. I think Shannon was playing against. I was playing him. I was a bit old at the time. And I thought I'll show this young whippersnapper a thing or two. I think at the end of the day, I just said, "Leave me alone." But No, a great servant and a great ambassador to rugby, and sadly missed.
Absolutely. The next one you've chosen, I can't see a pattern here. I don't know what the number is for. 15, the amount of players on a rugby team?
You'd think that, or you'd think, fullback or something like that, or Christian Cullen or something. No, it was the number of years I enjoyed with George on RT television.
Wow. So, felt like 150.
That was a tough grind for anyone.
Euromillions was up to 50 though. So.
To see careers ruined over that time because, he's too slow, get him off, too old. No, it was great. I loved my time with George, and enjoyed the panel now. But it was great banter for those 15 years, and I have to say it was a very enjoyable time. And there were times you went to the games too. Suddenly, we started off in a little shack. I remember doing the Heineken Cup games over the railway, the Aviva, and you'd hear the train coming past, and you'd be like shaking. And how times have changed. But,
I remember you in Thomond, the old Thomond Park, surrounded by crowds, even just before the game, and it'd be you, George and Tom, and just looking so cold, like the coldest people in the world.
And George
just basically talking about how, and you'd be reasonable, but George would be Munster would have no chance, no matter who. They could be playing Milano, and they'd have no chance.
You go for no chance at half time to, it's like Lords when they walk amongst the wounded. It was like
predicted it all.
I remember the best prediction he ever made was he thought this was this brilliant prediction that Italy would select Mauro Bergamasco at scrum half. George said, this is a phenomenal decision. At half time they took Bergamasco off. He coughed up about 40 points or something, missed tackles or something. George was like, there's a bit of humble pie here, but we've had some good times.
Absolutely. 15 years, 15 for 15 years spent in a studio with George Hook, which I think anybody who endures that deserves to win 70 million.
Well, it's a fair sentence, isn't it? When you look at criminal activity, 15 years inside is a fair.
Okay, so we've 4 down, 40, 10, 8 and 15. We're going to get to the comments to see the last one is. So you've got 2 more to go. So what's your 5th number?
Well, the 5th number is, and this one other people can come in. The 15th one is the best player that I think I've seen, and we can go back a long time to growing up the great Welsh players, the Gareth Edwards, the Barry Johns, the JPR Williams. We can look at the Irish players, of modern era, the Paul O'Connells, the Keith Woods, the Brian O'Driscoll, of course. But I think the player for me that probably changed the face of rugby. Did he have defensive frailties? Possibly, yes. But, when you think about how coaches went to select players, was John Olomu. I mean, I saw that guy play on a number of occasions. Just the size of the guy. Like, he was freakish then. He's still freakish now, size-wise. I mean, I know they've got those guys like Nadolo and these Fijians and that. But when you think back at Lomu, 6'5", 6'6", 7 or 18 stone and could run like the wind.
Yeah.
It became the replica for all coaches to try to select.
He was a prototype at the time. I remember you were thinking, this is a guy who's the size of a forward with the speed of a back, and we'd never seen him before. And he was running. Like, I remember him going in at number 8 on
number 8.
Scrums,
absolutely. Number 8. And were there more skillful players or were there more professional players? Absolutely. But when you look back at players that actually change, and it's a bit like football. Do you compare a George Best or something who could actually transform the game to someone that's more reliable? No, because I think Lomu had that. You give Lomu space, and he was unstoppable, and you can't say that about many rugby players.
The thing was, I remember as a child, just when he was in his pomp, I was very young, and you wouldn't know to. It must have been 1990. So what when he was at his best, I was only 8 or 9. So I remember you wouldn't know too many players from the Southern Hemisphere, but you always know John Olomu. He was the one that he transcended that. He broke in, he kind of broke them over that way.
You saw the tries he scored. I mean, there was one against France. I think he took about 4 or 5 players through the forward packs on his back. I mean, he could score them in any way. I mean, the only thing was, I say, defensively, at that size, he could be slightly caught out. But I mean, people said, who cares? You just gave that guy the ball in space. And he was a phenomenal sevens player as well. So, and I mean, there'll be people disagreeing. I think that's a good thing. It's like comparing boxers, Is it Muhammad Ali? Is it Mike Tyson? Is it, Joe Frazier? that's a great thing about sport, that you can compare different generations.
Absolutely. Poor Mike Catt had about...
Well, he would have been one of the world's best players.
No, but he had about 80 caps for England. He's been a coach. He's been around rugby for about 400 years at this stage, and only remembered for Romu just running straight over him in the 95 World Cup and standing on him on the way.
Yeah.
So so we've got one more Euromillions number to pick from you and one from the crowd.
One for the comments, so hurry up because
don't forget it's
your nominations.
Jackpot coming up tonight. 70 million tickets available in store, in app, and at lottery.ie. Brent, last number.
Last one's really important for Ireland. I think, having been over here so many years, is 23, because it's 2023 that I hope that I sincerely hope that Ireland get the Rugby World Cup. I think it would be brilliant here, and I think they're a shoo-in to get it. I know France trotted out in that game with 23 on it, and I think Ireland probably missed something because you were looking at this 23. But I think the way they hosted the Special Olympics, the way that the GA grounds have become available, I think I can just picture Japan being hosted in Kilkenny or somewhere, or Fiji being in some of these little towns, a bit like New Zealand, which is the success of it, that they go out to people's houses during the week, that people go to the trainings, that they play in the local grounds, and I think that no other country in the world could do it better than Ireland. And I really, really hope, it's not just because I've been here, it's because I've been to a lot of the World Cups and I've seen them. I really sincerely hope that's in Ireland 2023. So
we really love underdogs as well. So we've got someone like Japan and Kilkenny. You can imagine all of Kilkenny go. Sure, everybody went nuts for Japan.
But that's what I mean.
In the World Cup as well.
And they would buy it. And what happened I come from a little rural town in New Zealand, Ashburton, and the last World Cup was on. They kind of adopted the Romanians, and the Romanians stayed in the local hotel, but they went out to farms and that during the week and ate sort of home cooked meals and that with the people. And then when people went to buy the tickets, they weren't interested so much in the big games. They wanted to go and see their Romanian friends play, and I think that could happen in Ireland. And what a bucket list for people travelling around the world. Go to Ireland for, imagine the crack is going to be. And I say it's going to be because I know they're going to get it. Yeah,
well, hopefully it'll take over the country, and the build up will be like it'll do a lot more for rugby to have it in Ireland than in France. So hopefully, look, I think there's a longer discussion to have in what it would mean for rugby, and we might do it another day. But we've got 6 numbers picked now for tonight's Euromillions. Thanks to Brent Pope. 40, 10, 8, 15, 11 and 23. We've one more to go. Mark, have they given us anything?
We do. We have a few. Laura Murphy, she says 3 for the tricolour, winning the rugby, winning the Euromillions. She's looking forward to it.
And the Triple Crown.
And the Triple Crown is right.
Oh, good.
Who else have we got here? We've got Alan Fay says 13 for Brian O'Driscoll. I've seen a lot of suggestions for number 13. I've seen a suggestion for number 3. I've seen an 81. We can't go up to 81, I'm afraid.
What's that even for?
But I would say, so I'm not between, I would say the short list would be 13 and 3. We've had 2 suggestions for 3 and 2 for 13. So they're the most popular picks out there.
Ireland's greatest ever rugby player, or Brian O'Driscoll's number 2?
Well, I think that's fair enough. 13. I think might not be far away from Ireland's winning margin now. That's getting a bit carried away, but
hopefully
I think Ireland will beat Wales, and I think that 13. I'm happier with 13 than 3. I think that 13, Brian O'Driscoll deserves a nod there. He was, a fantastic player and would have been one of the greatest players I've seen. So we'll give it 13, will we?
Okay, let's go 13.
We have a couple more comments as well that are not number related. There's just a couple coming in saying TJ Goggins says Popey's a legend. So there you go.
Oh, thank you very much. 100 for that.
We've also... We've got Mary Carolyn, who also suggested number 13 and said Jonah Loma was our hero. She's a good question.
She's doing well.
She's a good question. We could leave it on. Irish players for the Lions. Who would you pick?
Oh, there'd be a number of them.
Let's go with starting test.
Well, I would have the hooker's going to come into some contentious areas because it's with the captain. I would have Furlong. I think Furlong and McGrath could both be in the mix. Second rows, I don't think Ireland's possibly not going to do so well. I think possibly at this stage I'd be more or less thinking the captain could be Alan Wynne-Jones. Depends on what happens. Back row, you could easily have CJ Standers a shoo-in. Yep. Brian could be there as well. Certainly Conor Murray is a shoo-in. Sexton is a shoo-in as long as he keeps right. And Henshaw. So I think they'd be just about the certainties. And then there's ones Rory Best, Heslip, these other guys that'll probably tour, but I don't know whether they would start. A lot depends on these 2 matches. If Ireland win the 2 matches and win the championship, then you're going to get a lot more players in, because Scotland are now threatening to get 3 or 4 players in, and at the start of the season you would have only said Hogg, maybe Gray.
If Scotland as well, you kind of want them to beat England, but at the same time Scotland will win the championship now if they beat England. So.
Yeah, well that's it. The one player that would worry me coming back into the mix now is that players are what obviously everybody watching for this week is Vunipola. You know, that guy is a wrecking machine, and you know, for him to play against Ireland, he might come on this weekend, so you know, that puts a lot more emphasis on the back row, because I mean, fully fit, he's probably your back row. You know, probably your back row would probably be Vunipola, CJ Stand at this moment, and either O'Brien or Warburton or something like that. You know.
Okay. Listen, that's brilliant. We've a big night ahead of us. We've got Ireland's first ever Six Nations game on a Friday night in Wales, and we've got the Euromillions draw worth 70 million euro, and Brent Pope.
70 million.
Brent Pope, and indeed one of our fine viewers have picked the numbers 40, 10, 8, 15, 11, 23, and 13.
But imagine if 3 comes. Imagine they get all those numbers and then 3 comes up.
Oh, they'll be held with Rory Kennedy.
Mary's great supporter.
There'll be absolute war. Listen, just to remind again that the Euromillions draw is on tonight. Hashtag share the dream. Tickets are available in store and in app and at lottery.ie. That's it for us. Thanks a million to Brent.
Cheers.
Thanks to Mark.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
I like the suit.
Thanks. Do you want to try it on?
A bit small.